endangered sea turtles by BP in the Gulf Coast. This is Democracy Now!, and those are the headlines. DemocracyNow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
And welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. The Senate Judiciary Committee will continue questioning Supreme Court nominee Elena Kagan today after she mounted a spirited defense against her critics Tuesday. Barring a major gaffe, she's widely expected to move closer to succeeding Justice John Paul Stevens, who retired from the Supreme Court Monday. Kagan once called the Supreme Court confirmation process, quote, a vapid and hollow charade, where nominees simply offer a, quote, repetition of platitudes. This was in a law review article she wrote 15 years ago. Many critics in the press noted that in her own confirmation hearing, Kagan did not significantly depart from the script. But Tuesday's hearings did have a few heated as well as light moments during Elena Kagan's exchanges with senators from both sides of the aisle. It began with the top Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Jeff Sessions, grilling Elena Kagan about her position on military recruiters while she was dean at Harvard. He accused her of punishing the military and defying federal law by barring recruiters from Harvard Law School's Career Services Office.
We never suggested that any members of the military, should be criticized in any way for this. Quite to the contrary. I tried to make clear in everything I did how much I honored everybody who was associated with the military on the Harvard Law School campus. All that I was trying to do was to ensure that Harvard Law School could also comply with its anti-discrimination policy, a policy that was meant to protect all the students of our campus, including the gay and lesbian students who might very much want to serve in the military, who might very much want to do that most honorable kind of service that a person can do for her country. The military at all times during my deanship had full and good access. Military recruiting did not go down. Indeed, in a couple of years, including the year that you're particularly referring to, it went up. And it went up because we ensured that students would know that the military recruiters were coming to our campus, because I talked about how important military service was, because our veterans organization and the veterans on campus did an absolutely terrific job, a terrific service to their fellow students in talking to them about the honor of military service.
Well, I would just say, while my time is running down, I'm just a little taken aback by the tone of your remarks, because it's unconnected to reality. I know what happened at Harvard. I know you were an outspoken leader against the military policy. I know you acted without legal authority to reverse Harvard's policy and deny those military equal access to campus until you were threatened by the United States government of loss of federal funds. This is what happened.
Elena Kagan's views on national security issues also came under some scrutiny during Tuesday's hearings. She managed to deflect most of the questions by noting that, quote, the issue was likely to get to the courts. In this exchange, Kagan is responding to California Democrat Dianne Feinstein's request to clarify her position on the scope of executive power.
I would say that the circumstances in which the president can act as against specific congressional legislation, where the president can act despite Congress, are few and far between. And I think that that's what Justice Jackson said in Youngstown. And I think that that's what mostly the court has agreed with, few and far between. Now, are they non-existent? Well, suppose Congress said something like, we're going to take away the president's pardon power, a power that's specifically committed to the president by Article 2. I think that that would be a hard case. I think the court might say, well, notwithstanding that Congress tried to do that, Congress can't do that. The president has that power, and it doesn't matter what Congress says about the matter. But those are very few and far between. For the most part, the presumption is that the president, if told by Congress that he can't do something, can't do something.
South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham also drew Kagan into a discussion about her views on the rights and protections offered to detainees and whether she personally endorsed the stance she embraced as Solicitor General against habeas corpus rights for detainees held in Bagram in Afghanistan.
You argued against expanding habeas rights to Bagram detainees held in Afghanistan. Is that correct?
I did, Senator Graham.
As a matter of fact, you won.
In the D.C.
Initially.
Circuit.
And you probably won't be able to hear that case if it comes to the Supreme Court, will you?
Well, that's correct. The reason.
Well, that's good because we can talk openly about it.
I mean, if I could just say, in general, the Solicitor General only signs her name to briefs in the Supreme Court, authorizes appeal, but does not sign appellate briefs. But I determined that I should be the counsel of record on that brief because I thought that the United States interests were so strong in that case based on what the Department of Defense told our office.
Well, I want every conservative legal scholar and commentator to know that you did an excellent job, in my view, of representing the United States when it came to that case. You also said the courts of the United States have never entertained habeas lawsuits filed by enemy forces detained in war zones. If courts are ever to take that radical step, they should do so only with explicit blessing by statute. You stand by that?
Anything that is in that brief, I stand by as the appropriate position of the United States government.
Well, the brief needs to be read by your supporters and your critics because some of your supporters are going to be unnerved by it. Some of your critics may like what's in there. I'm here to say, from my point of view, that this area of your legal life, you represent the United States well, and I hope that Congress will rise to the occasion, working with the executive to provide some clarity so that we'll be able to find a way to fight this war within our value system.
Part of Senator Graham's extended questioning of Elena Kagan. On the issue of abortion rights, she responded to a question from Senator Feinstein by emphasizing women's health should be protected in any abortion regulations.
Let me ask you clearly. In a memo that you wrote in 1997, you advised President Clinton to support 2 amendments to a late-stage abortion bill to ensure that the health of the mother would be protected. Here's the question. Do you believe the Constitution requires that the health of the mother be protected in any statute restricting access to abortion?
Senator Feinstein, I do think that the continuing holding of Roe and Doe versus Bolton is that women's life and women's health have to be protected in abortion regulation. Now, the Gonzalez case said that with respect to a particular procedure, there was that the statute Congress passed, which passed a statute without a health exception and with only a life exception, was appropriate because of the large degree of medical uncertainty involved.
Because of the procedure.
Because of the procedure. Mm-hmm. But with respect to abortion generally, putting that procedure aside, I think that the continuing holdings of the court are that the woman's life and that the woman's health must be protected in any abortion regulation.
Some excerpts from Tuesday's confirmation hearing of Supreme Court nominee Elena Kagan. The hearing continues today and is expected to last all week. When we come back from break, we'll be joined by her colleague, Harvard Law professor Charles Ogletree. Stay with us.